Some countries have experienced such high inflation rates that their money became worthless. Imagine going to the store with boxes full of money and not being able to buy anything with it because prices have gotten so high. At such high inflation rates, the economy tends to break down. The United States is in a stronger economic position than any other major advanced economy in the world. At the same time, inflation is too high and is putting a strain on working families. The president's top economic priority is tackling inflation and reducing costs for American families. The Federal Reserve, like other central banks, was established to foster economic prosperity and social welfare. Part of the mission given to the Federal Reserve by Congress is to keep prices stable, that is, to keep prices from rising or falling too quickly. The Federal Reserve sees a rate of inflation of 2% per year as measured by a particular price index, called the Price Index for Personal Consumption Expenditures, as the right amount of inflation. So in this video, we will discuss how to fight inflation. Hello and welcome to my channel. Hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon for more informative and amazing videos. Let's get started. Number 1. Get on a budget. One of the best ways to beat inflation is to follow a budget or spending plan. This will ensure that you are watching what you spend and are only spending what you make, regardless of how inflation affects the cost of something. Be sure to have set budget line items for things inflation might affect, such as clothing, food, gas, and housing. Allocate your money at the beginning of the month and then stick to the spending limits you have set. You can be flexible by adjusting the spending amounts between budget categories, but resist the urge to dip into your emergency fund or retirement savings. Your budget will help you determine your spending priorities, which can help you decide what items are the most important for you to spend money on and which to skip. Number 2. Lesser spendings. A rise in inflation means an increase in the cost of goods and services. If inflation seems to be overwhelming your budget, consider cutting out unnecessary expenses. You can work out at the gym of your apartment complex and cancel your gym membership. You may be able to stretch the length of time between hair appointments by a week or two, or save on gas by taking advantage of public transportation a few times a week. You can carpool as well. Other small sacrifices can help you deal with inflation as well. Try cutting back on your daily coffee habit, or make your own at home and bring it to work in a travel mode. Don't buy extra treats at the grocery store or skip the second glass of wine when out with friends. Number 3. Mind your debt. Keeping your debt low is always a good idea. Typically, however, interest rates start to rise when inflation rises. If you have variable rate debt, it's increasingly likely that your variable rate will start to variate upwards soon. So unless you plan to move shortly, it's probably time to refinance your variable rate mortgage to a fixed rate note. Similarly, if you have variable rate credit card debt, almost all credit cards come with variable rates these days and can't pay it off immediately. You might want to look into fixed rate alternatives. Consider taking out a personal loan or home equity loan to consolidate debt and pay it off at a fixed rate. For most people, it is better to lock in fixed rates when you're sitting at historical lows than carrying variable rates, Reddy says. 4. Real estate investment trusts, REITs. Real estate investment trusts, REITs, are companies that own and operate income-producing real estate. Property prices and rental income tend to rise when inflation rises. A REIT consists of a pool of real estate that pays out dividends to its investors. REITs must also pay property taxes, which can make up as much as 25% of total operating expenses. If state or municipal authorities decided to increase property taxes to make up for their budget shortfalls, this would significantly reduce cash flows to shareholders. Finally, while REITs offer high yields, taxes are due on the dividends. The tax rates are typically higher than the 15% most dividends are currently taxed at, because a high percentage of REIT dividends are considered ordinary income, which is usually taxed at a higher rate. Number 5. Fiscal measure to control inflation. Fiscal measure to control inflation. Government spending, public borrowing, and taxes comprise the fiscal policies to combat inflation. Economists argue that due to an excess of aggregate demand over aggregate supply, demand pull inflation is induced. Owing to spending by individuals, companies, and the government, aggregate demand rises, usually excessive spending by the government. This rise in demand due to the government or household spending can be effectively regulated by fiscal policies. Fiscal policy and fiscal initiatives are thus effective weapons of demand pull inflation management. In the event of a very high persistent inflation rate, both such steps may be taken simultaneously by the government to contain inflation. In the case of a decrease in public spending, the rate of taxes on private income is increased to keep demand under control. This form of policy of concurrently using both measures is called the surplus budgeting policy, which notes that the government should spend less than tax revenue. That's all for today. I hope you guys liked the video, and for more stuff like this, please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for notifications.